I'm Michael Drives, and this is the 2020 Prius Prime Limited. Now, Prius is a gas-electric hybrid, and its primary and only fuel source is gasoline. The Prius Prime allows you to plug in and gives you the option of both worlds. So the Prius Prime will do 25 miles on electric alone and then just automatically switch over to gasoline for a total of 640 miles when you have a full charge and a full tank of gas. Now you may be thinking, well, my something crossover will hold 8 people and tow a yacht and it can go 600 miles on a tank of gas. This car does it on 11.4 gallons of gas. 640 miles with a full tank and a full charge. The biggest news for the 2020 Prius Prime is 5-passenger seating. So before you had 2 seats in the back, and now you can actually seat 3 people in the back, which brings it along more in line with the competition, such as the Hyundai Ioniq plug-in hybrid. All new this year is the inclusion in all grades of Apple CarPlay. The Prius Prime is a good example of when form follows function. So the entire car is designed for airflow, to slip through the air very easily, and that's sort of how it gets its wild shape. Now, there are some competitors out there that look a little bit more like a normal sedan. They don't stand out from the crowd, and that's okay. The Prius Prime is the car that you want to drive when you do want to stand out, but for the right reasons. Prius Prime comes in 3 trim levels: LE, XLE, and Limited. LE will start at $27,600. My pick is the Prius Prime Limited, and this is for 2 reasons. One, it includes blind spot monitoring, which I think is absolutely necessary for today's driving and makes changing lanes, knowing who's in your side view, so much easier. Say you wake up with a stiff neck and you can't turn your head that well that day. You've got blind spot monitoring, no problem. It means an indicator is going to light up in your mirror when your turn signal is on and you're potentially going to merge into someone. It just lets you know that the car is there. The second thing that I love about the Limited is it includes the JBL sound system. And that takes the regular Prius Prime stereo, which sounds like a good alarm clock, and makes it sound like 2 good alarm clocks. Prius Prime is not just efficient, it is the most efficient Toyota hybrid that you can buy today. When I say that the Prius Prime brings the Prius up to another level, this is how it does it. It adds a larger battery to power the hybrid system. So you can go longer on all-electric power. You can go over 80 miles an hour on all-electric power. And let me give you an example in the real world. You leave your garage or your apartment building or your condo with a full charge, and you can conquer 25 miles, sometimes even more, depending on how easy you are on the pedal. I've been doing better, of city driving on all electric, not spending a dime on gasoline. So your power is coming from whatever your fuel source is at home that powers your house. So if you're in an area with a lot of windmills, you're going to have renewable energy as part of your energy mix. If you have solar on your house, you might have 100% renewable energy. The idea is that you get to drive those 25 miles on a cleaner fuel source, which is electricity. Then the car automatically transfers to hybrid mode after you complete those 25 miles or whenever that electric battery is depleted, and it becomes a hyper-efficient hybrid at that point, getting 54 miles to the gallon on average. Now, I've had this car for 4 days now. I've been driving all around town, and I haven't used the gas engine once. Not by my choice, it's just never needed to kick in. There's no reason for driving around town and pretty much going beyond that 25 miles an hour on my daily drive. Yours may be longer. You know, you have to go to the groceries, get the kids, drop the kids off at practice, pick the kids up from practice, run another errand, come home, drive across town, drive to another state, come back. You're going to surpass the 25 miles, and the car is just automatically going to transition into its super efficient 54 mile per gallon combined hybrid mode. Now I'm going to geek out a little bit and tell you about my favorite positives of the Prius Prime. This car has carbon fiber in it. And what it actually has is a carbon fiber hatch. The battery warranty. So there are many warranties that come with this car. You have your standard bumper-to-bumper 3-year, 36,000 miles. And oh, also, you've got 2 years of Toyota Care, I believe it's called, where all maintenance is included for 2 years. So your standard 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. But then you've got a powertrain warranty that's above that. And then you've got a hybrid powertrain warranty that covers the specific hybrid components that is 8 years or 100,000 miles. And then new for 2020, 10-year, 150,000 mile battery warranty, guaranteeing the performance of the battery. Heated seat switches that you can actually find. And this was a change from past Prius Prime model years. They put the switches next to the cup holders now, so you can actually look down where your hand would fall and flip on the heated switch. Before they were hidden, and I can challenge you to figure out where they are on a pre-2020 Prius Prime, because they're not easy to find. On the same category, the steering wheel is heated on the limited trim, and get this, the button to turn on and off the heated steering wheel is actually on the steering wheel where you can see it. So props to Toyota for that. Here's the biggest thing that I find awesome about the Prime and what makes it the king of the Prii, and how it might find its way into your garage over Prius. So Prius Prime in its limited trim, and again this is a front wheel drive car, and the Prius in its limited trim, a front wheel drive car, is $1,000 price difference. This car, and here's where it gets interesting, has a federal tax credit of $4,500. And depending on what state you live in, there could be additional incentives. So if you live in California, there's $1,000 available on this car, giving you a potentially, depending on your tax situation, $5,500 off the purchase of the car. So all of a sudden that price difference of $1,000 makes this car much more inexpensive, and it's the top of the line car. So it's almost like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do that? I would do that. You should do that. Take advantage of tax credits, right? Less money you're giving to the government, more in your pocket. That's a different episode. If you live in a state that can grant HOV access to plug-in hybrid vehicles, and this may apply in California, Maryland, possibly your state, Prius Prime is most likely eligible. You'd have to check your code as of today, where regular Prius is no longer in that category, because this can run on electricity solely as its primary power source for a certain period of time. That grants you privileges. The general benefits here are the ability to be an electric car around town, and then to be able to take that road trip and just keep on going for 640 odd miles. You can probably do better if you're light on the accelerator, and you can likely do far worse if you're heavy-footed. However, maybe you can't do that bad. I don't know. It's your driving style. Give it a try. But on average, 640 miles. So this is a great option if you maybe are a one-car family. You want the car that can do it all. And you electric around town, you can stop at any gas station along the highway. Say you really want an electric car, but your living situation, you live in an apartment building, you don't have access to charging at home, you don't have access to charging at work. If you buy a Prime, you still get all the tax credits and benefits if they're available to you. However, you're sort of future-proofing your situation, because if you move into that home or apartment or condo that does have charging, boom, you're all set. You can now power yourself with electricity for as long as you need to. Say you don't have charging at home, you don't have charging at work, you're not moving anytime soon, but you want to have an electric car as much as possible. The environment is something that's important to you. Breathing air is a good thing to you. Then you can have a Prime or any plug-in hybrid, and why not this one, and plug in what's called opportunity charging, or what I call opportunity charging, and that's if you go to the Target and there's some chargers in the parking lot, you can plug in. If you're in a shopping mall and there's some chargers on the 3rd level, you can plug in and you can leave powered electrically. And basically anywhere where there's charging infrastructure that's public or where you happen to be parking, you can take advantage of that. and not give up what is often free electricity. Hi there. I want to talk about one of my most favorite design features of the Prius Prime, and that is this rear LED light signature. Now, the Prius and the Prius Prime share the same body, essentially, for the most part, the same shell. However, there are design cues for the Prius Prime that vary greatly from the regular Prius. And if you take a look, you'll see this sort of double bubble rear window, okay? It's kind of concave here and it comes up on the sides, and then it has this large LED light signature. I love this. This is awesome. This is different than every other car that is out there, and it's nice to have some style, and this piece I think works. Not all of it does. There's angles of this car that scare me, but this is awesome. This is fun. I think there are some 60s cars that have tail fins that are just horizontal and beautiful, and this is one of the great features. Now, it's actually, remember, form follows function. It's here for a reason, and that's to let the air slide through to give it a good drag coefficient. Somehow it still does worse than the regular Prius, but that doesn't matter because 640 miles, 54 miles per gallon combined, and I believe the regular Prius is 52 miles per gallon combined. So you're already doing better. Just to pop this open and give you a little example of the cargo space. So you've got a nice little cargo cover here, but this is your load floor, okay? It's above the back of the car, which means that this is taken up by some of the larger hybrid battery. You can't access this. You have a tiny small compartment here where you can store the portable charger. However, you can't lift this panel up. There's some nifty panels you can lift up on the side and hide some things, but there's just not the space of the regular Prius. We're talking a little more than 19 cubic feet of cargo space in the Prius Prime. But I want you to see this as a benefit, and here's why. There's plenty of room. The seats fold down. In fact, they're 60/40 folding split seats, and you can put a suitcase in here and not have to lift it up and over a rear trunk lid or hatch or anything like that, you know, the rear cargo area. You can simply slide the suitcase, and if you're like some people I know, drag it across the bumper and scrape it, but don't do that. Just slide it out and set it down. It's good if you've got a bad back, if you're taking people to the airport all the time, taking out groceries. You can just slide whatever, slide it out. Super easy, okay? Probably on the wrong side for this whole shot. And so that's actually a good thing. You're not losing that much. If you really are about the numbers and you want a little more cargo space, then a car like the Hyundai Ioniq plug-in hybrid might be a better choice for you. But let me tell you, there's plenty of room in this car. I've filled it with boxes. Just fold down those seats. You can pile stuff in here. It's a 5-door, so it's easy to get to. Oh, and look, we're here. Here is the beautiful carbon fiber that I was talking about earlier. And this shell, this is exotic stuff, right? This is really cool. Carbon fiber, carbon fiber. So here we are on the passenger side, and this is where the electricity goes in. Now on the driver's side is the traditional gasoline filler fuel flap thing, right? So over here we've got the electric side, and interesting thing, you have to release the gas side with a button on the inside so people don't steal your gas, because they could just go in with a hose and plug it in, and that would be bad. And suck the gas out with that hose. But you can't just stick some wires in here and steal electricity because, well, so to charge this car, you take the charge plug, which is included, and you just plug into your wall socket in your garage to get your free 25 miles, not free. Average, based on the average price of electricity in America, it'll cost you about 60 cents to fully charge this car to its 25-mile capacity. It's 8.8 kilowatt hour battery, and you'll be good to go if you're starting from zero. So that will take you a little over 5.5 hours. So you come home, plug in, you drive the next day or in the next 5.5 hours, and 5.5 hours, and you're ready to go. So if you're at a fast charger, level 2 charger, if you have one in your garage or you're out at a public station, you can plug that in here and it'll charge fully in about 2 hours, just a little over 2 hours. Let's go on the inside, and I want to to you about a few more positives and negatives about the Prius Prime. One of the things you'll notice down here are the heated seat switches that I was talking about. Perfect location, you can see where they are. If you happen to spill your coffee in them, I don't know how long they're going to work, but it's accessible, it's good, and you've got that 3 or 36,000 mile warranty. So spill coffee between that time. Jumping ahead, let's talk about the screens that we're seeing here. So you've got one big screen here, massive screen. This is your navigation, your temperature control, your stereo. And then you've got a screen up here and a screen in the middle and a screen to the left of that. And then in the limited trim, you have a heads-up display that's on the windshield. So imagine your first Zoom call. You log in, you go into grid view, and oh my gosh, there's all these screens and people are talking and you don't know which one to look at. When you're driving along in the Prime and you hear a chime, you have no idea which screen is calling your attention, right? Things are not blinking, things are in very tiny symbols. And then you look at the different frames in your Zoom meeting, and some people have a really nice background and a very sharp camera, and others, it's like they didn't make their bed, they didn't do their hair that day, and they're using a webcam from 1982 because it's a small ball on top of their screen, and you're like, so you're seeing different quality resolution screens here and different clusters of information. Now they give you good information, but they give you almost too much information, and so you can select kind of what you're seeing in the middle here as far as eco feedback. You can select what you see on the screen here. Your Apple CarPlay can come up, the navigation's in the background. That's awesome. But we have multiple screens everywhere, and then we also have multiple buttons and multiple kinds of buttons, and buttons that control screens, and buttons that you don't know what screens they control. Are they controlling a screen? Are they just operating a function? It's kind of hard to tell. It's not intuitive, but if you spend some time with it, it gets easier, but there is a learning curve to this car. A lot of that learning curve is here, and a lot of the learning curve is the buttons on the steering wheel to control the tiny screens up here. So you don't know where to look, and you really just should be driving. You should be looking at the road, but there's so many buttons and symbols and things going on that it gets to be a little bit much. It doesn't have to be. Ignore them all and just look down the road, push the 2 pedals, and with your driving skills, you should be able to navigate to where you're going. So let's talk about the buttons quickly. There's regular buttons here that are push buttons. You've got rocker buttons down here, and then there was a focus group that decided, oh, you can't put everything on the screen. You need more buttons on the side. I want to push buttons. So there are buttons. You can turn the air conditioning, the HVAC to auto in here on the screen, but to adjust the temperature, you have to push the buttons on the side of the screen, which are not buttons. They're touch capacitive buttons, so they're sort of buttons, but they don't work like push buttons. You just touch them. Which is how buttons work. Then you come over here and you've got buttons on the steering wheel, and you do have a heated steering wheel button, and that's awesome. That should be on the steering wheel. But you've got other buttons that control different safety functions. They're here on the steering wheel. They're within easy reach, but there's lots of them, and the symbols all sort of look the same, and they don't really differentiate themselves by feel. You can kind of feel around if you know where it is by muscle memory, but you don't really know which button's going to do which things, and then you kind of figure it out as you go on. Another thing about this interior, it's love it or hate it. Good quality materials, but the design is, yeah. No sunroof, because you can't get one. Another annoyance. So in my growing up, and there was a station wagon involved, and I was learning to drive, and their parking brake, the parking brake in the station wagon, this is in the 80s, okay, I'll give you that much, was on the floor of the car, and you pushed it down to put the parking brake on, and then you pushed it again and it sprung up back at your foot. That's how it is in the Prius Prime. This is a 2020 car with technology galore, but you've got this giant pedal down here next to your accelerator and your brake that is the parking brake. Instead of what most cars have today, and even cars at almost half this price, have a button that you just push. You know, you put the car in park, and then you can apply the parking brake with another button, or it may come on automatically depending on the car. So a little bit of an annoyance, kind of like why, but you know, you can't have everything you want. You can get close. New for 2020, super fancy. Oh, that sun. So it is nice. These do come in handy, and I'm glad to see them on the Prime. I'm glad to see them in any car, but it's nice that they're here. One more little thing that just kind of drives me crazy down here. this is a knob to put the car into park, neutral, drive, or reverse. Why it's like another turn signal stalk. It's not needed. I mean, it's functional, but it could just be, and I'm actually calling for buttons for this, park, reverse, neutral, drive. Simplify it. It's a little gimmicky. It's got this cool blue pattern that kind of sparkles and glows in the sun. And there does need something that sparkles and glows in here because it's a lot of gray and some more gray, but I definitely prefer this to the all black interior. So it's time for a little cargo test to see what we can fit, what we can haul in the back of the Prius Prime. I've got 25 flat U-Haul boxes, ranging from book boxes, small boxes, medium boxes, large boxes, and even a TV box. So 25 boxes, we'll see if we can fit them in here, and then we'll see if we can fit in even more. Who knows? Let's go. So we're going to merge onto the on-ramp here, and gonna really hammer the throttle to give it everything it has.
69 south.
And the pickup is more than adequate. Never feeling like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to merge onto the highway. And I've got a full load of empty cardboard boxes in the back. It's going to be a little bit slower with a fully loaded car, as any car would be, but I would never say that it is underpowered. I left this morning with a full charge to head out on the highway, and I drove for about a mile in urban traffic, suburban traffic, and then straight up to 73 miles per hour on the highway, and the battery did not deplete its all-electric range until 22.5. Now it has a range estimate, and they tell you, of 25 miles. However, using the car on the highway, you're obviously going to deplete that faster because you are pushing against more wind at a higher rate of speed. And that also means that if you're driving in the city, you're definitely going to get more than 25 miles of all-electric range. So I've had the Prius Prime for 4 days now, and I've put 212 miles. I'm looking at the trip meter right now, and in those 212 miles, because I've done all my city driving, just plugging in every day or every night and leaving with a full charge, 96 miles to the gallon is my average over the past 212.5 miles that I've had this car in my possession. That's awesome. That's why you have a Prius Prime. If it was switched over to just hybrid mode and I never plugged this car in, I should see at least the rated 54 miles per gallon combined rating by the EPA. 3 drive modes, and this is kind of cool because you can switch from normal to eco and be super frugal with your acceleration, or there's actually a power mode that's going to give you stronger acceleration. There are a couple different modes as well. You could control whether the car starts out in all-electric power and then you drive your 25 miles of combined all-electric range and then it switches over to a hybrid, or you can save that extra energy in the battery and go into all-electric mode. Say you're heading into a city center or you're heading into your neighborhood late at night. You don't want to wake up the family or your parents or whoever you're, maybe living with. You can slide into the garage in all-electric power, shut the door, no noise, and not like a Prius is noisy in the first place. As I ran out of the 25 miles of all-electric range and I was on the highway going 73 miles an hour on cruise control, the transition from electric to hybrid was seamless. And that shows that Toyota has learned from its 20 years of hybrid experience, and actually more than 20 years, that they really know what they're doing. They've got the technology down. It's fantastic. You could not perceive when that happens. I had to look on the eco meter, and we'll call it the eco meter. And that's another great thing about this car, is that you can hit the menu button and you can hit the info button, which is designated by a leaf, and hit energy. And you see this beautiful display. If you're a kid at heart, or you have kids, or you're explaining to someone how this car actually is functioning, what is a hybrid, what is happening when you're in all electric power, or what happens when the gas engine kicks in, there is actually a gorgeous display animation that will show you, hey, the engine is burning fossil fuels and pushing energy into the battery and the electric motor. Or if you're in all electric mode, it's just going to show that you're driving on electricity and it's all coming from the battery, going to the motor, going to the wheels. So really cool animation. You can have it down here in the main big giant screen, or you can have it up in the smaller screen. The one thing I don't like is that when you have any sort of announcement from the car, say you veered out of your lane a little bit and you have lane keep assist on, and it's watching you and it's tattling on you and beeping at you every time you drift out of the lane, which is what you want it to do, it covers up whatever you're watching in the hybrid ecometer feedback screen, which you can shift to several different types of displays in that. It can even tell you how much energy you're consuming by dollar amount, which I think is fantastic. But it covers that up, and you have to hit the little button here with the backwards arrow that takes that screen away, and then next time it beeps at you, it covers up the screen. So just to keep in mind, if you really want to see the big cool display, do it down here in the big monitor. Or you don't have to pay any attention to any of this at any time or worry about it, and you're all set. The car just does all the things for you. You just get in and drive. Whether you're on electric or you're on gasoline, it doesn't matter. It just drives until it burns up everything it has, and then you'll need to charge or fuel up or both. In the same display that shows your trip meter and your odometer, and you've got trip A and trip B, it will also show you your miles per gallon average since you started the car. And this is really cool because it's showing me that since I started the trip today and I got right on the highway, and I did start with a full electric charge, that I've gone 60.2 miles and my average miles per gallon has been 79.8 miles per gallon. That is just fantastic. And that's going to slowly dip a little bit as we continue on. And I only pulled off the highway once, and that was to turn on the camera. But it gives you an idea of how you're performing on that very trip. The feedback of this car is excellent. Now, I am merging to pass a tractor trailer, and I don't know if I smashed the pedal. This was fake. It didn't really pull my head back. But you may be able to hear the... And that is a technical term. So, one manufacturer, a competitor to Toyota, once referred to a CVT, and when you hit the gas, the engine goes up to its highest RPM level and tries to take you up to the speed until you let off the gas that you desire. They called it motorboating, and it's kind of that same thing. If you've got an outboard motor and you just smash the throttle, you'll get that, and that's what it's saying. So when I hit the gas, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's just, it's a grunty, and then you let off the throttle and it comes back down. But you're not always just flooring the car. Maybe if you're going up on an on-ramp and you want it to go Nelly go and give it all it has, then you would smash the pedal. But in everyday driving, even if you need to give it a little more power, it's imperceptible on the highway because you have so many other noises going on. You have tire noise, you've got wind noise. You're not going to sense it. If you're in the city starting out from a stop sign and you've depleted your hybrid battery, you're going to hear the engine act up. It is a little bit coarse. And that is why you always want to plug in the car when you can, and it really makes you savor those all-electric miles, because this car will go up to above 80 miles an hour on all-electric power, and it'll do it for almost 25 miles. And you've got all the power, and you've got the smoothness and the quietness. But this is such a great car because you can do both things. You can drive around town on electric and then take it up on a highway and drive cross country if you so desire, with the option of filling up on electricity where you can and filling up on gasoline where you cannot find electricity to plug into to get your 25 miles. As far as driving goes, and we're on a piece of concrete now, so you're gonna hear the noise. We're gonna switch to asphalt, and it's quiet. it handles those transitions, those bumps, those potholes really well. It does not upset the car. The car feels solid going down the road. I've got to commend Toyota. They've done a great job with that. If you've been watching this interior shot, you've noticed, new for 2020, this sun visor extender, and this is how it comes in super handy. Okay, you wouldn't think that that does a lot. It does a lot because the sun's up there in the east, and it was hitting me all morning, but I yanked this little thing out. Okay, sun visor, super handy. And speaking of safety, this car comes with Toyota Safety Sense P, as they're calling it. I don't remember if that's plus or whatever, and you're getting the full safety suite, but again, you have to get the limited trim to get blind spot monitoring to know if a car, which is coming in your side, it will light up in your mirror and also give you a beeping warning. The visibility outside the Prius Prime is excellent. I can see in front of me, on the sides, turn back. I've got boxes here, so I'm using my side view mirrors, but outward visibility in this car is just phenomenal. So today's trip is done. I've gone 122.5 miles and averaged 64.3 miles to the gallon. Awesome. That's just out of the park. Really happy with that. Playing with the navigation system or pressing some buttons, I've discovered the most awesome thing that I have found, and I don't know how long Toyota's had this in their Entune system, so it may not be unique to the Prius Prime, but if you have to dig through the navigation system, one note, something I find annoying is that, I've talked about buttons in this car. Well, in the screen, the screen can sometimes look a little, 1990s Netscape, because you've got buttons that are supposed to look like buttons, but they're just pictures of buttons. And then you've got things that look like buttons, little gray boxes that you can't actually push because they're not virtual buttons. Oh my gosh. But here's what I found that I geeked out, because I'm a fan, I'm a weather nerd. I guess that's what you'd say, right? And I was in here and I hit menu, which is a button, a physical button on the side. And then I hit the info with the little leaf, and then I hit weather. And I saw there's a list of buttons on the virtual screen that you can push. And the bottom one is weather map. And I thought, oh geez, this is cool. I'm gonna show green where there's gonna be rain, or maybe white or blue where there's gonna be snow. No, actually it should be called radar map, because there is a live radar that comes on the screen. I love this feature. Tesla does not even have this today. I mean, you could in a Tesla go into a web browser and do all that, but that's dangerous to do while you're driving, and you shouldn't do that. So Toyota has offered live weather radar in the screen. Now, I had to go about 4 menus deep to get to this radar, which over the navigation map puts a window of another map that has the radar. I don't know why it's not just a layer that you can turn on or off on the navigation map, but I've suddenly tuned into the weather channel, and here's the weather radar, so I can see that a storm is coming, and it might be a good time to pull off and maybe grab a snack somewhere, or this is a good time to hit the rest area, or that line of storms looks really fierce, I'm taking shelter. So cool feature. It's called weather map. I'd love for it to be called weather radar. Toyota gods, if you're listening, but that is just a super cool feature. I didn't even know it existed in this car until I'm driving down the road, and wow. So in summary, is this the king of the Prii? And the answer, in my mind, is yes. It is not only better than the regular Prius and better than many cars out there, but you can have it at a significant discount if you take advantage of incentives that may or may not be available to you. Even if you have to pay full price, I think you're getting the value that you won here, the legendary Toyota reliability, and the ability to have an electric car, a hybrid car, all in one, and it will adjust to your needs. You can plug in when you can, but you never have to. You can drive this car all day long as a 54 mile per gallon, very efficient hybrid. You can take advantage of HOV lanes potentially in your locale if those are available to you and depending on your state laws. But this car will kind of do it all and do it really well. So striking design, it's not for everybody, but sometimes you don't want to just be everybody. You want to stand out from the crowd a little bit. So if this has been helpful for you and you like this, please go down and click subscribe. Even if you're not going to watch another video, which I dare you to not watch another video, if you liked it, click subscribe, forward it to a friend, have them subscribe. If you didn't like it, forward it to 2 friends that you don't like and that they don't know you don't like them. Please share, please subscribe. Thank you.